I had people ask me about the cup chuck that I had spoke about a couple weeks ago. So I went ahead and recorded a cup chuck demo. Now it's two parts. The first part is the 1.5 inch cup chuck. The second part is the 2 inch, what I call a scoop chuck. Um, I recorded the demo because it's been very cold here in North Carolina. And ironically, it's 50 degrees tonight, so I could be out in my shop. Uh, if you don't like the weather in North Carolina, wait 5 minutes. This is
Yeah.
my personal coffee scoop that I did using the the scoop cup chuck, the scoop chuck. That's the second part of the demo. This is birch, and something to note. And if anybody knows anything about this, I finished this with pure tongue oil, and it polymerized almost immediately. You know, tongue oil's done when you can't smell it anymore. And within 2 days, this was completely cured, and I've been using it for 2 weeks now. This is Manzanita. It's from California, and this still smells like tongue oil. It's still curing. But these are two examples. This is the one that's in the video. So without further ado, we're going to screen share and get the video started. Please ask any questions. You feel free. Again, this is a video, so uh, I'm able to answer any questions. And go like that. And let me wait. Let me go. I have to undo that. I've got to make sure the audio is correct. Hang on. Tonight we're going to talk about. Can you hear the audio? This is a very
Yes.
old wood on a lathe.
Lost the audio.
Jam chuck. So you know, is it back? Get this jammed, but
Yes.
it's not break. It's not going to move. I've got two versions, both from Bestwood Tools. This is the 1.5 inch, and that means that right here at the opening, it is 1.5 inches across. It's got a nice chamfer, so that's a soft edge. And then there is a very slight taper. It's the same taper. It's a 2-degree taper. It's the same taper as your Morse taper. This is the 2-inch, and I call this the scoop chuck. This has a 1/2 inch cutout on one side. It's perfect for coffee scoops, and you put the handle out the side so that you can get a nice square scoop. So this just gives you a little more options. And this again is 2 inches at the top, but it's got that slight taper to it. So as you jam the wood down into it, this is a jam chuck. As you jam the wood down into it, it compresses the wood and gets a harder jam. We're going to do a couple of quick little pieces with each and just show you kind of how it functions and give you some ideas of ways to use it. I've been playing with these ideas. I'm not going to tell you that this is a full-fledged process. I am playing with some ideas of how to use these. So we're going to just do a little exploration.
The first and most obvious thing I saw when I first received this cup chuck was the time of year. I got it in November, and one of the things that I think most of us do this time of year is turn snowmen and Christmas trees, and snowmen and Christmas trees, and snowmen and Christmas trees. And this provides a really quick and easy solution to knock out numbers of those pretty easily. So one thing that is also available is this is an extended drive spur. This is the prototype. We're actually shortening that 1 inch because this is not all necessary, but it fits down through the 1.5 inch and 2-inch cup chuck. So you can start between centers to get your dimensional lumber, whatever your piece is, to down to the size to fit in there in the cup chuck and the centers, so that you can start pretty easily to work it down where you need it when you use is my Duxbury center finder. And these are roughly 2x2. It's just up for, I think. This part of the country might just go.
JJ, can you turn the sound up a little bit?
Not sure if I can, but I'll try.
Very cold in my shop. I do have a heater going, and I am shooting this during the day because normal meeting time it's going to be wicked cold. All right, I am set up for spindle turning. I'm running at spindle speeds, which is around 3,200 RPM. So that's not a recommendation. Turn at the speed you feel comfortable. It's safe turning, but you can generally turn a lot faster when you're doing spindle work than you can cross grain. So we'll start just with spindle roughing down and around it. At least not the corners off, not the edges off, so we can get it into the cup chuck. So at 1.5 inches, make sure we're able to get that end into the cup chuck. And we're still a bit, I was holding it upside down. We're almost there. We just want to be able to get down in there. Again, as you drive it into the cup chuck, it's going to compress the wood, and that's what's going to give you a good hard. All right, it's just a little bit outside of the new now. Now, this is machined perfectly square at the bottom, so you can drive this. If your piece of wood is square, you can drive this all the way down and seat it at the bottom and know that it's going to be straight. I started between centers, so I've got a center on this end. We're going to keep it between centers for a while, so we don't necessarily have to do that. But if I've got a not straight edge here, one thing that you can do is just make a couple lines so that as you're driving it in, if you want to make sure that you've got it square, all you have to do is make sure that these lines are straight with the edge here. So just a little trick picked up from Richard Raffin. His video is where I first learned about the cup chuck and was fascinated with it. And using these has got me asking, why did we stop using it in America? Especially for spindle turning, and especially if you're doing a lot of production of small pieces. This is a pretty handy way to handle large bundles. I do have to warn you that you might need a longer knockout bar because you do have some depth here. You've got almost 2 inches of depth here, so you may need a longer knockout bar. That's just fitting. You can see I'm squared up already, but I'm not seated. That takes a little bit of effort. Taps again, I do those lines so I can take a look and see where I am lined up and make sure that it's straight, but also, again, I have my life center. Centered. I have a bit of a, it's where a branch came up, so I've got an eye here. I have to be careful with that. That's going to flake out. You make sure you're wearing your face shield. Roughly. That is now seated in the truck, and we'll show you that here in a few minutes. Well, that hit some grain up there where that, yeah, I did. I was lifting grain, cutting that way. We'll come back that direction, smooth that out. Much better surface off the tool. Go ahead and come back here. Now, one neat thing about this cup truck, it's not the same on the 2-inch, although it could be. That one's a special design for scoops, but it's useful for other things. But one cool thing about this is, since it's just a continuous steel ring, and it's smooth and it's actually finished, bump it with the tool, bump it with your hand. There's nothing to catch on you. It's not going to hurt. When I'm starting to single orientation, a little unsure, a little unsteady, and might accidentally come back and bump the truck. There's no jaws, there's no rough surfaces. It's nice and smooth and should not do any damage to your tool or to your fingers. That's what a really, really nice little benefit of this design. Again, with my 2-inch one with the cutout in it, it's certainly going to catch you, but right here, that's pretty neat. I like that. All right, so we got a piece of pine. It's the Christmas season. What else are we going to try? Holding right there. We got a little bit of chip out and deal with. Had a rough day with the skew today. I'm a little bit out of practice. But it's holding it, it's running true, running straight. So obviously there's a lot of different options you have here. But you can definitely use this for holding for multiple. So we'll try to finish out this tree, part it off, move to the next tree. I'm going to change to a cone center. I like to keep a live center on regardless when I'm working this far away from the chuck. That's a long ways away. So just for support, not really going to put any pressure on there, just have a supporting live center. Nicely, just to make sure that we keep that stable as we part it off. So got a little pressure ring here. See if we can very lightly take that down. Neck there, so I've got a pretty vibration. I didn't expect that before I got applied. What I want you to notice is that this is stable enough in there that I can actually do that. And the reason it's vibrating is because of that. So we can bang out Christmas tree, little ornaments, or whichever you want to use them for. And likewise, we can make snowmen. All stacked right here. And we can even come back if we wanted to and put a little 1.5-inch tenon on each if we wanted to remount it to do fine detail work or whatever, and just part it off, set it aside, part it off, set it aside, come back and knock it in, finish it. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of versatility here. And our next little piece, and really, you're doing a production like this where you need to just knock out 4 or 5 of them at a time from one stick, you can just move on down the line and get those done pretty quickly. Then, once you're there, once you're at the last piece, once you're finished, pieces tuck in and keep moving. So there's a fairly quick and really easy method of holding. And this will, I'll show you with the next piece. This will actually stand up to hollowing. So you have full functionality, but you're not worried about trying to make truck jaws fit or things like that. It will hold the piece while you do what you need to do to make whatever you're making. Now, before we get to hollowing the piece, I just want to mention this is something, this is an idea of playing with. I've got a little bit of tenon here, so that it gets down fairly deep in there. I've got just that little slight bit of chamfer on the indie chuck, and I've got wild ideas. So, depending on where those wild ideas are taking me, I have a universal 360-degree multi-axis chuck, or not 360, 180. As long as I can get a decent jam into there that's going to hold my piece, I should be able to do a multi-axis cut, multiple multi-axis cuts with it held securely. So we'll try that real quick. Centers, and that cup chuck actually slipped, or not this, the cup center on the back end slipped a little. Pine is very soft. I'm going to say that the pine is probably not the right substance to use. I also have a bit of a cone on here, but you get the idea. With a little bit more forethought, that was an afterthought. A little bit more forethought. If you think it through and prepare correctly, this is not. But think about it. So let's say I decide I wanted 3 centers. I've marked them out. I've got one here that's a jam that's held by the jam. Then I can just pull it over to the next one, then jam it. Pull it over to the next one and jam it. And I never have to move this. I'm only moving this side. So there's an option there. There's something I'm still exploring. One of my thoughts on that exploration is to actually round this end before it jams in and only leave about 1/4 inch of actual jam with a ball on the end here, which will enable a little bit more stability and support. This is something I'm experimenting with. I'm still working on it. But another added benefit, again, if you do that, another added benefit is you have this nice smooth surface here. Nothing's to catch, nothing's going to grind on it. And if you do something like put a mark and just say this is 0 and base twists, you can actually move all the way around and match marks up. I mean, this is useful. This is useful, and I have yet to really get deep into experimenting with how that's going to work. And the cool thing with the stainless steel is once you're done, you don't like the mark, just wipe it off. So that's another option, another idea, another use for the cup chuck. Okay, another use. Again, just got a little piece of ash blank here. It's actually prepped for something else, but we'll use it for this. Because I want to show you how this works for hollowing. So back between centers with the extended left center. Over. Yeah, I'm a little bit big. Sorry if I'm shaking. It's cold out here. Or just a little bit under. And so what I want to show you is, first of all, you don't need an 1.5-inch long tenon to fit in there. A little bit will do as long as you're able to get a good bite and get that seated. Persuader. Pull it toward you with a blow to line it up. You see that you're a little bit out. That's just about dead on. I think it can come this way, just a hair. But that way you're always driving it in, and then you can just line it up and make sure that's on center. Full rest because we're just not working with 9 inches worth of material here. Head on. Now. Move right through there. Now you have to reach up and fight. You're not going to get a nasty jam or scratch and break control or anything like that. That's pretty nice. All right, let's see. Shape here. We'll make a little teeny tiny cordial glass. So we're going to bring the stock out, and I have to move you guys because I'm going to be hollowing it. My shoulder needs to go exactly where the camera is. So back to our spindle gouge. That's the depth of the inside. where we're at. Should I try to match that curve? Terrible, terrible. Certainly creating a sandable surface. Now, this is an awful open grain for an actual liquid holding cup. Um, well, I'd be more inclined to market this as an egg cup. Expandable at that point. Sorry with that. Fun little shape to it. Now you can see I'm right up against it, and it's not catching. I'm not jamming. That's pretty nice. I like that. I can get up under here and underside the bottom of my little light cup confidently, knowing that if I accidentally do tap the chuck, it's not going to cause me an issue. Well, it's not with the scoop chuck, as I like to call it. not bad. I was able to undercut that pretty well. Obviously, we do a lot of sanding and things like that, but pretty effective. And again, being able to kind of bump up against their understanding that it's safe, I'm not going to get hurt. I certainly don't want to do it intentionally, but if I do bump into it, I'm not going to have a problem. That's pretty neat. Let's show you one more aspect of it before we switch to the scoop chuck. All right, I've got that piece of pine back in here, and I kind of started before I thought about starting the camera. I've got enough wood that now this is where I was doing that multi-axis. Oh, that's not going to quite. Maybe might be a little bit. Oh, hang on. This is the measurement I really want to make. It might be a little bit. And might work. Might work because of the chamfer. This might work with this piece. If it doesn't, we still have the option. A little bit pointy on my end of my egg here. And I've got that little, I see a, that's not going to work. We're going to have to use this piece down here because where I was doing that multi-axis with it, I actually took it down and it's not going to jam in there, but I could actually start my egg right here and get back to there. So this little bit. Show you how stable this piece of wood is in that cup chuck. I just forced that material away, really hogged it out, and it's holding it just fine. So we'll make a little egg. little smaller than my cup, but not the end of the world. If I kept it big enough, I'm not sure I did, but if I kept this big enough, we should be able to finish the end. If I kept it big enough, that's wrong here. Aha! Well, Steve Twidell from over there in Ireland taught me this. You don't have to quite perfectly match the jam if you can get down inside. You don't have to perfectly match a jam for it to hold a spherical object. You can get this actually opens up a little bit wider than the jam. You should be able to get that in there as long as you've got a little more than 3/4 of the sphere into the jam, and it should hold. That's close around. No eggs are perfect. All right, again, this is not perfect. This is just a demonstration. So I'm not really stressing about getting the egg all perfect and in perfect shape. And I just want to show you that I was able to jam that in there and it flattened it a little, but it held it and it didn't actually scar it in such a way that I can't finish it by hand with a little sandpaper and use that little bit of a crush. So another aspect of this is that you can jam an object that's a little bit larger, a spherical or a round object that's a little bit larger. You can get a jam, and because it's got that chamfer right there, it's not going to damage it too much. It will give you a little bit of a mark, but it's not going to mark it so deeply or so heavily. As long as you're not banging on it, it's not going to mark it so deeply or so heavily that you can't hold it to finish return, something like that. It'll just jam just a little bit and you can get in there. So that's another neat aspect of a cup chuck.
All right. The last two parts of this is using what I call the cup chuck, or the what I call the scoop chuck, which is the 2-inch with a 1/2 inch cutout on the side. You can see on the bottom right of the cup there. I spared you making the handle and the ball of my scoops. I'm just going to show the hollowing part and how that works.
That was a good jam. We had a good solid hole in there. Always nice. See, certainly didn't have a problem maneuvering our sphere, and we are below the surface, so we're just outside of 2 inches in diameter, which means we will get minimal compression. Let's find that crack. There it is. See if we can line that up. All right, we are a tiny bit oblong shape again, because we're going to jam this. I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. And we're going to go for a 90-degree scoop. That should be all it takes. Actually, I think we're gonna tilt our scoop a little bit. So pop it out, tilt it again. I want to try to get beneath it. Here's where that nice half-inch deep cutout comes in handy. I want to try to get that crack out of there. So because it's clear here, we can actually hollow right down to the just above the ring, and we'll be able to turn that crack away entirely. That's pretty solid jam. Now I'm going to caution you when you're hollowing here, take your time and first figure out how much pressure it will accept. These will like to jump out. Again, it is a jam fit, it's a friction fit, and it can jump out. So take your time. Your first couple cuts, kind of feel it out, feel where it's going to work best. If you go ram it in there, just trusting ahead, you're likely to bounce it right out of the cup chuck. Also, when you're reaching around here, make sure you remember you do have a handle swinging around. You don't want to hit that. So keep your hands well clear. Right. So we just found our limit, bounced it out. That's good, not a bad thing. Try to position it back where we had it again. Close as possible. Again, this is a jam. You have to treat it accordingly. Also, sharpening your gouge usually helps. We'll be back. Got a fresh edge. So we do. Thank you. I think that'll do it. Part of the issue is I do have a slight egg shape. One thing to remember is this is a 2-inch sphere. We've cut almost half of it away, which means that we don't want to go more than 7/8 deep. We're only a half an inch, so we've got plenty of room to get deeper. But you want to kind of use some spatial awareness. Consider the shape of the inside of a ball, because that's what you're trying to turn. Not being able to pop it out, put it back in, pop it out, put it back in. So be very conscientious of that. I might have been better off to drill a depth hole before I started down into the hollow of the goal. But we'll work it out. Before I get the nub down at the bottom, I want to kind of feel here. No, I'm still real shallow. Let's get that nub out. We'll make a quick measurement again. That's shallow. It jump a little. Where that. Okay, we're at 3/4 of it. We're about where we need to be. We're removing bulk. We're losing the solidity of it. We've got to be real careful here. I'm going to switch to a scraper and get the inside of that rounded. I think that would be the safest solution because it is wanting to rock a little bit on us. I'll come in with a 1-inch traditional scraper. It's got a fresh groove on it. That's too big. 3/4 inch asymmetric negative rake. I shaped that myself. Raise the tool rest a little, so we're kind of aiming downhill a bit. The light is washing the bottom of the knot, but there's a little bit of a nubbin nut down there. It's my friend Steve Cordell likes to call it. Below that, read scraper. Seems pretty good. I still feel like we could remove a little bit of material right here, right in the shoulder. It feels a little less than spherical right in the shoulder, but I don't think we want to go much deeper. Let's bring in vernier caliper using the tail. Right down in the center. Take a look. We're at, so again, that's a 2-inch sphere. We're just over 3/4 of an inch, so we do have room down there in the bottom. So we're going to work through that. We'll keep using the scraper just because it's going to present more pressure straight in rather than laterally. That's going to help kind of reinforce the fact that that's a jam. We're making pretty light cuts. We're not really going hard. Jam. Spherical from the end of the handle. Let's take a look here again. Depth. All right, we can go deeper. I think I want to take it to at least 7/8. So I've got 1/8 of an inch of depth. So I'm much closer to spherical and much rounder. But I'll still need to get deeper. That felt pretty nice. We still have a wee bit of depth to go. We're going to freshen the burr on this. Be right back. You might be saying, wait a minute, that's a negative rake scraper. Why doesn't it have a burr on it? It does have a burr on it, but what the negative rake does is give that burr a bit of an angle rather than me raising the tool rest real high and having to come down like this. I can come in at a flatter angle, but still have that burr approach at that higher angle because of the negative rake. Hope that makes sense. Nice wispy little shadings. That's why the burr. It's clean. You know, tiny touch of torn grain right there. Let's see how close we are. Much closer if we were to take a super light pass or two. Let's see if we can get that little tiny bit of tear out cleaned up. Again, just misty angel hair shavings tells me that the burr is exactly what needed to happen. To clean that torn grain up, we're going to take one more super light pass. You're doing that little nubbity nub. Roll that edge. And I do believe we have hollowed our scoop.
Okay, that is the scoop chuck. Things you can do with it. Um, Anybody got any questions?
Yes. What would be the advantage of using the scoop chuck? Like in the first bit where you're doing a lot of spindle turning, why use the scoop chuck instead of, say, just between centers?
Speed. Um, Really, the cool thing I see for that is if you're doing production, like again, as I said at the very beginning, this time of year, what do? You're making all kinds of Christmas trees and snowmen and things. You can put a 12-inch piece of 2x2 in there, knock them off right down the end. You're not worrying about where your chuck key is. You're not worrying about sizing tenons exactly. You can literally take a hatchet and just sharpen down the end of there, and as long as it fits in there and jams, you can hold it in the cup chuck. It's just really simple, very fast. And another advantage is, at least at Bestwood, they're less than $100. So $300 spindle chuck or a $79 cup chuck that you can do the same amount of spindle work. You're just jamming it instead of trying to size tenons and things. Another advantage is, as I showed with the 1.5 inch, because there's not the little cutout for the handle that's specific for that 2-inch chuck. If you're teaching students, you're not terribly worried about them overshooting and hitting the chuck and getting a jam or breaking a tool or breaking a finger, because you have a nice continuous smooth edge. So from a safety aspect for spindle turning, that is something to consider as well.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? Now, if you go on YouTube and look up Japanese tea caddies turned traditionally in Japan, they turn end grain tea caddies with an insert lid and a friction fit outer lid, and every single piece is turned using a cup chuck jammed. And they've been doing that for more than 100 years, and it's fascinating to watch. And everything is jammed. It's just another option, another way to hold tools. And I think the multi-axis aspect, I'm just formulating devious ideas using it for multi-axis. But I think that because you can twist it in the chuck 360 degrees, and then you've got essentially 180 degrees of mobility around. I think that for multi-axis, there's a lot of wild things that you could create using it. I just haven't got there yet. I'm still working it out.
The Russian women that make the nesting dolls, they use a jam chuck like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Big metal one. Yep.
And again, though, that's a production thing, because when you think about it, when you think about those dolls, and they make like 40 or 50 a day.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
just the time it takes to size a tenon, and where did I drop my chuck key? Where's, just that time.
Right.
If you just take that out when you're trying to do that much production, it saves a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great demo, JJ.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.